What's up, faithful? Contracts voided, dead cap added, an assistant coach gone. Joey Bosa, should we get him or should we not? Find out right here at 49ers Central. Let's go. What's up, faithful? I want to be quick with this because, sorry, I haven't had a video out recently. Work has been kind of crazy. You know, I'm doing this and work at the same time, so it can be kind of nuts sometimes. But Yeturgos Matos, Jordan Elliott, and Juwan Jennings, all gone. Contracts voided. And they're not coming back. That's about $14.47 million in dead cap space that will hit this year. But next year it's not there. So that's $14 million that we are not paying to players that were really not producing what they should be, or just not benefiting the team. And Juwan Jennings, yeah, he had that one good year, but can we all say that he's worth $18 million or however much he's going to be asking, because it could rise more than that? And quite frankly, I say no. I don't think that he's even worth that much. He's not the type of receiver that we need right now. Also, another thing that I've been seeing quite a bit is Debo. I really don't think we should be getting Debo back. The dude is not exactly the best when it comes to man-to-man coverage, especially not in our division. Seattle has a lot of DBs and safeties who are extremely fast. They're fast. They can run with you man-to-man. And if you can't either outpace them by simply being faster than them, or just be taller than them, so you can taller. Well, I mean, to me, I think taller is a little better than somebody who's a little bulkier. Yeah, you can muscle your way in on the catches, but you know, on them deep balls, when you, especially like if you're going down the middle, if you're going off to the left or the right side of the field, like with those fade routes, you know, post routes, streaks, I like taller receivers. To me, right now, everyone's talking about speed, like Casey Concepcion, which I think he's an awesome freaking receiver. But I would much rather go with Chris Brazzell. I've been saying this for a while, but I'm kind of deviated here. No to Debo. Dude we need to stay away from signing him. But Yeturgos Matos is also gone. Jordan Elliott, they're gone. Next year, 2027, that'll free up about $14 million in cap space, which is freaking awesome for us, because, you know, that's money that we could be paying towards a center for next year's pay, especially if you go with like Tyler Linderbaum and you backload his pay. You could also front load it. It just depends on how they do the contract. I know, like, I've kind of experimented with some of the deals that they could go for him, and one is pretty team friendly, the other one is more a typical Prague Maroth type of contract. You know, backload that thing, have a pretty decent bonus with some void years. I kind of hope that if he is signed, that they do what they did with Jimmy Bosa, or not, yeah, Bosa, excuse me. But you put a triple bonus in there, and one thing that I didn't even know about with Bosa is that he's got an insurance policy on that freaking contract, which we all found out about this year. And essentially, when he gets injured, right? The insurance company pays his bonus. They pay, not bonus, but they pay his injury pay. And then the team gets the rebate. So that was the $8 million in cap space. That was the $8 million in cap space that we picked up from him for being injured. That was where that came from. Didn't know that. That was completely new to me. So we also have an assistant coach that is gone. And Brian Fleury, I think I'm saying his name right. I'm not 100% sure. He's been under Kyle Shanahan since 2019. He was a tight ends coach. System continuity. He's going to be known mostly for the run game for them, and I think that's probably why they went with him. They already had kind of a Kyle Shanahan type offense already in place, which is why Sam Darnold actually looked a little better than what he did in previous years. I mean, I know he was in Minnesota and performed well there. You know, I think he's probably going to get a big deal because I don't think if I were him, I would not play on this deal. Like, Seattle locked him in for what looked like a pretty decent deal at the time, but now that you won the Super Bowl with him, is he really going to freaking just take that deal and say, yeah, let's go? No. And from news around the bend is he's wanting a larger deal, something closer to what Brock is making. So honestly, I hope they do sign him, because that means a whole lot less cap space for them to work with this offseason, on top of all the slew of players that they're losing in the offseason. So I think that's awesome. On our part, I hope they pay all their players. I would love for the Niners to be able to rebuild this offseason, redo the defensive line, linebackers, get our defense back to the shape that it used to be, get this offense back to where it has been in the past, just with better receivers. And let's see if we can go toe-to-toe with them. Because last year, I can't really say that the NFL there was no dominant team in the NFL. And can you say that Seattle was really the dominant team, or was it just everyone else was just not really all that great? I mean, if you take the Chiefs in 2023 and in 2019 and the teams that had come prior to that, even the Bills weren't as good as they were in previous years. So can you say that the Seahawks are the best team in the NFL and winning the Super Bowl? Yeah, that does. But arguably, from the past years that we've had, could they have beaten the Chiefs in the Super Bowl back in 2023? Could they have beaten the Chiefs in 2019? Hell, could they have beaten the Eagles in 2024 when they beat the Chiefs? I really don't think so. I really don't. And especially when you look at the defense, right? Their defense is built to be able to run man-to-man. They're fast. And this is one of the big things that I'm saying is that we don't need just speed. Like, I don't want the Niners to draft just another faster Ricky Pearsall. Because speed doesn't always equal you being open, and it doesn't always equal you being a deep threat. Maybe in college that works that way, but not in the NFL. In the NFL, you're going to need something a hell of a lot more than speed. You either need to be a dynamic catcher, you're good in one-on-ones, or you need to be all three plus tall. And this is the biggest reason why I'm saying Chris Brazzell III should be on the 49ers freaking target for second-round pick. He's 6'5". He's a little underweight for his height. He's about 200 pounds. But if you at 6'5", if you add maybe 10 pounds to him, maybe 15 pounds, he's still going to be a burner, and he's still going to have the height, the leaping ability. That is a receiver who can really open up the offense. And that's what you need. On top of a dedicated number two, which I've been saying this for a while. Isaac Guerrero needs to be implemented into the offense more. Everyone was saying we didn't have speed. We didn't have speed. No, we had speed. It was on the bench. I've said this in the past. I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face. We had speed. It was on the bench, and you just didn't want to start it. It was that simple. You traded for a running back you barely used when you had another one who was on the freaking goddamn bench, who was bigger, faster, and had played receiver in the past, which all of your damn receivers were slow as hell. If you'd have stuck Isaac Guerrero out there on one-on-one against Seattle, you probably would have had a much better target. But Brian Fleury is going to be the Seahawks' new having a brain farts here, offensive coordinator. He will be carrying some of the same offensive schemes as Kubiak ran, which is partly the reason why they went with him. They both run, Kubiak and Fleury both run the same Shanahan-style offense, which is what they want. So now we're going to have to look for a new tight ends coach. Maybe George Kittle can recommend a tight ends coach, since he seems to be advocating for freaking Debo to come back. At this point, he might as well have George Kittle as his freaking agent. Let's see. So, here's the one that I've actually been wanting to get to. And I know I've talked in the past about drafting Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle. But here is something that I've actually been I've wanted to bring up, that I've seen around the news, is bringing Joey Bosa into the freaking Niners. And not as like a full-time starter, but for me, I'm thinking like situationally, like a situational pass rusher. You stick him opposite of Nick Bosa. You stick him opposite of Nick Bosa. You have Nick and Joey. And at the same time, right, you can then kick Michael Williams in to defensive tackle, because he's a very versatile player, which is one of the reasons why they drafted him, is the fact that he can play defensive tackle, he can play defensive end. He pretty much is that utility player they wanted. And then, if in the first round, if we take at number 27, if we're taking Caden McDonald, the Ohio Buckeye defensive tackle, 6'3", 326 pounds. 326 pounds. That's a bowling ball right there, dude. That's a bowling ball. So let me tell you that much. That's defensive line right there. You put Nick, Caden McDonald, you put Michael Williams and Joey Bosa. That has the potential to be one of the best defensive lines you could field, because Caden McDonald eats double teams like it's good. Freaking Michael Williams, good against double teams. He can hold those double teams, and that's what you need. That is what you need. You need to be able to get your edge rushers. If we sign Joey, get Joey one-on-one. Get Nick one-on-one. Who are they going to chip at this point? Because the Niners' opponents, they've always used tight ends to chip Nick Bosa. But if you have Nick and Joey, what are you going to do? Are you going to put two tight ends on the field, take off another weapon off the field, and then say, cool, yeah, now we have to slow down our offense because two of our tight ends need to chip the defensive ends and then go off and do their routes. By that point, and anyone who's played football will tell you, a second, even 1 to 1.5 seconds taken just to chip a damn player, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time where now you don't know that if you have that time, because you got a 326-pound defensive tackle, you have Michael Williams going at you, you got Nick and Joey, and hopefully with the better disguises that Raheem Morris is going to bring, hopefully that can fix a lot of the problems that our defense had last year. And don't get me wrong, Robert Saleh was amazing when it comes to his defense. He's always been such a very fiery, great defensive coordinator and linebackers coach, but the one thing that he has in common with, say, Gus Bradley is that he's just not great when it comes to adjustments, and that's what you need. You need adjustments. You can't just sit there and do the same thing and beat your head up against the wall hoping that maybe you're going to get through, because that's not always going to happen. So the potential for Joey Bosa on this defense could be astronomical. He wouldn't cost a whole lot, and I'm thinking he made about $12 million when he was with the Bills last year, and I think we could probably get him on a 1-year deal for $11 million. You could probably get him on. That's a pretty decent deal for a defensive end like him. I'll take that all day, any day. And then if it works out, you sign him to a 3-year deal if he can stay healthy, and let him play with his brother, because his mom has wanted them two of them on the same team. Nick has wanted to play with his brother, and so has Joey. That's one thing that they have always wanted, is that they've wanted to play with each other on the same defense. And I think this year is the year that they do it. I really think that this year might be the year that they do it. So the defense can be fixed. It's not that bad. It's not like a multi-year fix. You just have to bring the right pieces in. And I think if they can draft the right pieces and really look to what they were doing wrong. And I get it. I know there's some YouTubers out there that will sit there and be like, our defensive tackles currently are freaking amazing, But when you look at the 49ers defense last year, they just didn't get any push up the middle. And that is not, you can't do that. Alfred Collins, Kalia Davis, CJ West, all freaking good defensive tackles. But overall, it's like they really didn't thrive under the defense. And yeah, they were missing pieces. And to be honest with you, I'm like Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins is probably one that I would say you stick him in, he can probably really do something. But we need one more good defensive tackle. And the thing that we haven't done in a while is draft a defensive tackle in the first round. And I really do think that we need to hit those, like that bowling ball type defensive tackle that is going to eat up double teams. And I think Kalia Davis, I think Alfred Collins probably has a much better chance at being a starter next to, say, Caden McDonald. But we really need depth on that defensive line, especially at defensive tackle. CJ West is another one that I would like to kind of get into, because the defensive tackles really didn't, and this is like the biggest thing, is that they got pushed back. They didn't get a whole lot of push up into the quarterback, which is what you want. And I know not having edges, Nick and Michael there made the defense a lot weaker than what it really should have. But this is in large part, the reason why I say we bring in Joey Bosa. We're bringing in Joey Bosa. You flip him 50-50 on the starting reps with Michael Williams. And you have the potential for a really good defense. So, one thing that I will say is that our linebackers, Fred Warner is going to be coming back, and I do think we need to kind of draft another linebacker. Harold Perkins is another one. I don't really want to draft a linebacker in the second round. For me, that's too high. The Niners have had a lot of success in the fourth round drafting, especially linebackers. So, for me, that's kind of, this defense needs to be fixed. And I know everyone's talking about the offense. The offense, It's a pretty simple fix. Get rid of Jake Brendel. You sign Tyler Linderbaum. You draft some defense. You draft some offensive linemen, preferably a left guard. That would be freaking awesome. And you get faster receivers because that's what you're gonna need. But I gotta take off. I have to get ready for work. I wanted to bring you guys another video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Leave some comments. I really want to hear from you guys. I love seeing comments. I love chatting with everybody. So stay faithful.